Welcome back to another segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons. Today I'm going to be talking about an episode from Season 5, Episode 9, The Cloudburst, when John Boy sells John Boy's Meadow and Mary Ellen faints. Stay tuned for that. John Boy needs money to pay off a payment on his printing press, and so he's looking for ways to make money. He finds out that there is someone in town with the Interstate Land Company that is buying land. And so he goes to see him and shows him where on the map is the acreage for John Boy's Meadow, and the man offers him $40 for it. And John Boy basically agrees to sell. An interesting thing in this episode is that early on, John has taken a job in Waynesboro because not making enough money in town. So once again, it's an episode where Ralph really only had one scene, and then he wasn't around for the rest of the episode. So I have to think that because that was two episodes, this one and the Great Motorcycle Race, where Ralph really wasn't in it. So my best guess is that Ralph was probably filming something else at that time, and so they had made arrangements to free him up to shoot something else. It didn't happen very often. I know there were times when my agent said I had offers for other things, but the company was disinclined to rearrange schedules for us to be able to do other work. But I can see in this case, and I think it might have been when Ralph was working on Roots, the miniseries Roots, which was another CBS show, so there might have been more incentive to work something out if CBS was, who also produced the Waltons, was kind of wanting to work with the company to make that happen. Just guessing here, but who knows? Sometimes my guesses are right. Some of the other things happening in this episode are that Olivia is covering school for Rosemary Fordwick, who is about to have her baby. So she's sort of on maternity leave. Meanwhile, Reverend Fordwick is busy trying to build this cradle. He's determined that he will build it despite having no particular building skills. So this is a whole subplot with Rosemary and her having her baby. And another subplot in this is that Martha Rose, Mary Ellen's nemesis, Martha Rose Coverdale, who is now Martha Rose Travis, has fallen off a ladder, and Curt and Mary Ellen head on over to their house, and Martha Rose is kind of banged up and stuff, and Curt checks her out. Everything seems to be okay. Before he leaves, Martha Rose takes a turn for the worse, and she's choking, she can't breathe. They bring Curt back, and Curt determines he needs to do an emergency tracheotomy. And he asks Mary Ellen to help hold Martha Rose. And then Mary Ellen just freaks out and faints. In terms of doing something like that, because I actually did fall to the ground, but there's ways to sort of collapse where you don't take as much impact on your body as opposed to a flat out fall. So I sort of just crumbled to the ground, and then you see me laying there, but a little embarrassing, both for me and for Mary Ellen, although it was part of my stunt reel, if I were to ever put together a stunt reel. John Boy has to go back and actually tell Grandpa that he has sold the meadow. Grandpa is furious. He said he never would have given it to John Boy if he knew John Boy was going to so easily sell it off. Ultimately, I really like that Grandma defended John Boy's decision. Oftentimes, she was the one who was getting after people about things they did. And in this case, she was trying to get Grandpa to see that the way in which the land was incredibly important to Grandpa was how John Boy felt about his newspaper, and that this printing press was integral to him being able to do what he wanted to do and follow his dream of being a writer. So I loved that Grandma was the one who really went in there and pitched for John Boy's position on this. Mr. Shelby has told John Boy that he doesn't really know what they're going to do with the land, but, they may just use it to fatten up some cattle. He then takes the fact that John Boy has sold the meadow to try and pitch other members of the community. He goes to the Godseys and offers them land and says, well, John Boy sold John Boy's meadow, and Ike and Corbeth give him an option on their land, and agree to speak to people in the congregation on Sunday's church service to let people know that if they are also interested in selling their parcels, that Mr. Shelby is there for them to talk to. Being curious about what the Interstate Land Company is doing, John Boy drives out to one of their sites and finds out that what they are doing is they are mining with high-pressure water hoses and stuff, and basically blasting away the land to uncover the gold or other minerals underneath. He is devastated by learning that he has been lied to, and also then leveraged to try to influence other people in the community to buy the land. He is beside himself about this error that he has made. These shots of them using the high pressure hoses, I would pretty much guarantee were footage from other shows that we did not go out on the Waltons and shoot this kind of footage, but I thought they did a really good job of managing to make it look like it was real in the moment. There is a storm approaching, hence the title, The Cloudburst. So we see stock footage of a cloudy sky, and a little later we see stock footage of a lightning strike. And you see a lot of evidence of wind, and they would have had large wind machines that they used to generate this kind of wind. You see Jim Bob up in the treehouse with Rover. It was a little cameo appearance for Rover the Peacock. And then you see Mary Ellen walking along the path heading back home, and the wind is blowing all over, and Rosemary Fordwick comes out of her house and calls her in because the baby is imminent, and Curt has gone up on the mountain. So Mary Ellen wants to go and get other help, but Rosemary's like, no, this is going to happen right now, and thank goodness you're here. Of course, Mary Ellen doesn't feel all that confident that she's a good person to have there in the middle of this crisis. But it does indeed turn out to be the very first baby delivery that I did on the Waltons. Of course, in the final episode, A Walton Easter, when John Boy's wife, Janet, has their twins, Mary Ellen also delivered those. So not only have I given birth on, as a character in episodes, as Mary Ellen and in another TV movie I did, but I've also delivered babies a couple of times on camera. So I am just an ace at this. But if you are in need of a midwife, do not call me. I am not a trustworthy source. For Sunday service, John Boy asks Reverend Fordwick if he would consider having the service up on top of the mountain. The whole congregation goes up there along with Mr. Shelby. After the service, Grandpa steps forward and gives a really impassioned speech about the land and the importance of the land and how it nurtures all of these amazing species of animals and plants and whatnot. And then John Boy speaks about having erroneously sold John Boy's meadow and what they're really doing, that he was misled into thinking that there would be jobs and that they were just going to fatten cattle. And he discourages anyone else in the community from selling their land to him because it will mean a company town and a mining town. And of course, Curt speaks up because that was in the wedding. Part of what he was doing was he was in court speaking against things that had happened in a mining town. So ultimately, no one else decides to sell their land or give the company an option on their land. And although they will not sell John Boy's meadow back to him, they never do develop it because they needed all kinds of acreage to be able to do it. So John Boy is successful in preventing the devastation of Walton's Mountain. Now, just note a fact, Mr. Shelby was played by actor John Carter, who had played a couple of different characters on the Waltons. In The Venture, he played Walt Cutlet, and in season 9, he was Deputy Hendricks in The Victims and The Hot Rod. That's what I have for you for this segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons about the episode The Cloudburst. I will be back with more Behind the Scenes of the Waltons and more Ask Judy and who knows what other surprises. Thanks for watching.